let's see, where do I want to start here? So first of all, um, you've been, God, feel like I've been aware of Rodrigo. I don't want to claim I've known you, right? But I've been aware of Rodrigo basically since I started with ShineOn. Um, you really appeared for ShineOn, I think, during the pandemic.
Yep.
Which is right when I started with ShineOn. Literally like a month into me working for ShineOn, the world went into lockdown, right? And I remember dealing with, we've got these people making all these orders, and we're trying to figure out how do we get our factory that's closed down, make sure we're getting orders out and all of that. And that was always fun stuff. But your journey starts, I think, well before.
Yeah, it did
ShineOn.
before.
And now, don't talk too negatively about these other people. But this call is saying a 7-year journey. It's 2024 right now. So we're looking back to about 2017 for when you started. And so in 2017, is that really your first foray into e-commerce in general?
Yeah, it is. So what happened was back in 2017, I started my print-on-demand journey. And at this time, it was the first time I actually found ShineOn, but I didn't really start selling with ShineOn. But I did found it. I had you guys set up on my store and everything. But my first sales were brought in by another print-on-demand supplier. We're not saying names here, but they actually shipped from China, okay? The problem was I didn't find out they were shipping from China until after I made my first sale, okay? And what happened was you could say I just brushed it off. I just said to myself, okay, they're shipping from China. It's no big deal. And I started making a lot of sales. So I found a few.
First off, so they weren't upfront about where they were shipping from.
Not exactly.
It was hidden in the fine print, maybe?
Yeah. You needed to start digging a bit to find out that they were shipping from China. So I just assumed that if it was a print-on-demand supplier, they were going to ship from the US, because I just couldn't imagine the whole logistics things working out. So I just brushed it off, started selling with them, and I found my first few winning products. I was very happy about it. I made quite a bit of money. I made my first 7 figures with them. And then everything came crashing down when COVID hit.
So before we get into that, when you're doing a 7 figures, and let's say, like a 2-year period of time,
something like that.
When you're doing that and you have a supplier who's shipping stuff from China, I mean, what issues were you dealing with? I mean, like I'm imagining it was not a seamless experience for you.
No, it wasn't. Okay, so I will start out by saying back in the day, I would say customers were a bit more patient regarding shipping times. All right, so things have changed now. But even back in the day, it was not usual for business owners to explain to customers that their orders are going to take 3 to 4 weeks to arrive. So there was some friction in that regard. I guess the solution was simply to be upfront about it. You just needed to inform people that your products were going to take longer than usual. But you run into a bunch of problems. If you're shipping to other countries besides the US, you can deal with customs issues. I mean, and there's just a lot of friction all around. When people receive a tracking number from China, they get freaked out. They don't know what's going on. So there's like a whole process around it that's not easy to deal with.
Yeah, and I think that 2017, 2018 era is really like a golden era, even for like the drop shippers, because it wasn't commonplace for this, and I think it was brand new for a lot of consumers. And by the time you realized it, and a lot of these, even still today, if you have a supplier shipping from China, they're giving you a USPS label.
Yeah.
And so from the customer perspective, when they see the tracking number, they're like, oh, USPS. but then it sits there for 2 weeks without a scan,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's like enters Jamaica, New York, or whatever, Nassau, New York, right? And and then it gets delivered, and then they get the label and they see it came from China, and it's wrapped all in tape, and it's clear that it came from China. I think that was the period where people started to get exposed to it and get annoyed by it. And it really started to become a negative, I think, that late 2018 into 2019. Okay, so you're selling with this, you're having success. Do you mind sharing like what products you were selling, or what general niche, or
Yeah,
anything like that?
sure. So actually, well, it's pretty obvious. There were back in the day, there were only like 2 or 3 suppliers that sold this product, but I started selling footwear. So
Footwear.
footwear
Okay.
was like my first big hit, and I had to niche down in all sorts of crazy ways. I started selling, in the elephant niche back in the day. There was a huge audience, and what's interesting was that Facebook's targeting was so precise back in the day that you could just like completely,
Hmm.
dial down on who you were trying to reach. And as you say, the whole business model was somewhat new.
Yeah.
So you could say it was much easier to make sales back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I think you could literally just target, like, I want all the people that like elephants, and Facebook's like, sure, that's easy.
Exactly.
Nowadays, everyone's doing broad because
Yeah.
you can't do that anymore. Um, but I think that there was definitely a huge area for that. So that's great. You're having success. You're hitting 7 figures. I assume you're making money,
Yeah, for sure.
and you're probably really enjoying life at that point. Um, Running a successful print-on-demand store, um, money burning a hole in your pocket, and then let's see. The time I came around was right around 2020, I believe. Um, so what happens in 2020 that changes this story?
Yeah, so this is pretty crazy actually. So the pandemic happened obviously in 2020, and basically on day one, where I was getting the news that something was going on around the world, I pretty much get an email from my supplier saying that shipping time was now going to be 8 weeks. So not 3 to 4 weeks, it was not going to be 8 weeks, and they were not even sure if they were going to pull it off. They were just trying to postpone, I guess, the bad news. So I instantly had to turn off all of my ads. So I was running a whole bunch of ads on Facebook. I had to go in and just turn everything off. It was a very difficult decision because they were very profitable, and I had to come up with a strategy to deal with customers. So at the end of the day, I had to turn off the ads. Number one, number two, I had to refund a bunch of people. I had to refund thousands of dollars, which was very painful. And then I realized I couldn't keep on selling this stuff, okay,
Yeah.
because I could get in trouble with Facebook. The friction with customers was just too much. And that was when I finally found my savior, which was ShineOn at the time. So I was on the lookout for a print-on-demand supplier that was based in the US and that shipped from the US and that also had different products. So not only t-shirts. Okay, I was looking
Yeah.
for different stuff. And that was when I found ShineOn, and I started testing products with you guys again. And back in 2020, on the run up to Mother's Day, I found my first winning product with you guys.
So I'm curious on this. Like, you had seen ShineOn in the past, but didn't think much of it. And to be honest, in 2017, 2018, ShineOn was a completely different.
Yeah.
What we were selling was very different. We were doing like the 3D modeled jewelry and stuff. It was a very different company than what people see today. So when you revisited ShineOn and you saw our product catalog at that time, like, the love knot doesn't exist,
Nope.
right? We've got a couple. We've got the message card stuff. I think we launched in late 2019. So message cards were brand new to us. Like 2019, it was still the point where we provided 10 message cards and you had to pick one. And then early 2020 is when we allowed merchants to actually upload their own message card. We had, I would say, the primary driver in our business was our graphic jewelry, right? Our dog tags, our circles, and our hearts. That was our bread and butter at that time. So what you go from selling shoes to jewelry. Why was ShineOn, besides the fact that we were US based, what was attractive about ShineOn?
Yeah, so basically, while I was selling with the other guys, I learned a whole bunch of stuff. So I started to pay attention to what made someone purchase a product. So I started learning a bunch about design, product research, and everything. And all I did was apply the same concepts to another product. So, like, if you have a design that is resonating with customers and you switch it up to a new product, more often than not, you're going to make sales. So that was pretty much what happened. I started, modifying and testing my other designs and making them possible for graphic necklaces. So that was
you
pretty
take
much,
your elephant shoe
yeah,
and you basically turn it into an elephant necklace, and
yeah,
it turns out it can sell to the exact same audience.
yeah. That's exactly what happened, pretty much.
So you find ShineOn, what basically, like, let's just call it Jan. I mean, pandemic happens in like February, March time. And so your first winter with ShineOn was what you said was Valentine's Day.
No, it was on the run up to Mother's Day.
Run up to Mother's Day. So yeah. So right after, and I remember this, like every Chinese factory got shut down. Like
Yeah,
Chinese print on demand was gone, and
exactly.
I remember in ShineOn, like we were trying to figure out how do we, when we were in our factory was in New Jersey, we were only allowed to have a certain amount of people in there. We were only able to be open from certain hours. We were trying to figure out how do we keep people in, keep orders going. It was difficult for us, even as a U.S. company. But I imagine your other supplier basically just disappeared.
Yeah, I mean they didn't disappear 100%, but they just said to all of us, like, you know what, we just can't promise you a delivery date, and you have to deal with it. So it could be 5 weeks, it could be 8 weeks, it could be 6 months. So you as a seller had to make the decision of how to handle this stuff.
So I want to share your Shopify screenshot to just explain to people what happens.
Yeah.
When a world event comes in and basically kills your business in a way. So here we can see over the course of 6-7 years, your Shopify store.
Yeah.
And, clearly, let me see if I can draw on this. I think I can. Oh, there it is. Right. Oh, I'm dragging stuff. No, I want to draw. I don't. Hold on.
Yeah, so those big spikes are always winning products. So
right here, you've got your winning products, and I mean, here you're doing, 6-figure months, basically, if not weeks, and basically come somewhere right around here. Is this like Valentine's Day and then pandemic?
Yeah, exactly. So I actually learned a very important lesson, and that was that profitability is more important than sales. Okay, so if you can see these huge spikes, if you can go up until 2019, for example, I was getting a ton of sales. But if you go on to the 2020 spike, I was actually making more profit over there. And that's also something that I attribute to ShineOn. It was, your margins were just so much larger than my other suppliers. So I was getting a 3x margin instead of a 2x.
So like, yeah, you're selling a shoe for $50, but it's costing you $25.
Yeah, even more.
You go and you sell a graphic piece of jewelry for $60 and it's costing you less than $20.
Exactly.
Your margins are just exponentially larger. And we've always prided ourselves on that at ShineOn. Is we always try and provide close to 60 to 70% margins for our merchants.
Yeah, and that is
Because
pretty
no
crazy.
one wants to make $1 per sale. You want to make
Yeah, and
$10
that's,
per sale.
sales screenshots are always very impressive. But I can tell you, I've had months where I've made 100K in sales and made 8K in profit, and I've had months where I've done 20K in sales and also made 8K in profits.
Yep.
So it's very variable.
No, I always say just because you're doing more sales doesn't necessarily mean you're making more money.
Exactly.
There's a balancing act, and generally, as you scale, your margins get smaller, not
Yeah.
larger. So there's a balancing act between just trying to get the biggest screenshot and trying to maximize your money, which
Yeah.
it's hard in business to not just chase sales, but eventually you have to start spending more money to acquire them, and it's not worth it. I shouldn't say not worth it because you're still making money, but
Yeah.
it starts whether the juice is worth the squeeze with your time. So you find ShineOn and you go into Mother's Day here and you get your first big winning product with ShineOn. And I imagine at this point you've stopped selling shoes basically
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah. Basically all together.
And so you basically pivot your business into selling ShineOn's graphic jewelry. Were you selling the message card stuff as well?
I got a few sales from message card jewelry, but my main driver was 100% the graphic stuff.
Yeah. And obviously we've brought up the elephant niche, but I imagine you were spreading your wings beyond just that one single niche and really playing in a variety of different
Yeah.
areas because in essence, graphic jewelry is a blank canvas that you can put anything you want on.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I started transitioning off, you could say, from that winning product mentality, because I realized that, as I mentioned before, you could have months with half the sales and more profit. So I started at this point trying to build the business in, from all fronts, doing email marketing, SEO, trying to do some Google ads. And also I did some horizontal scaling, which is what you mentioned. I started incorporating lots of niches. So,
Yeah.
we're talking 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, even more of different audiences I could start targeting. So I did like a whole mindset shift in my business, because if you're always trying to go after a winning product and you're trying to make a living out of this, it can get a bit stressful. So you have
Yeah.
to try to diversify your efforts, I would say.
Well, I think it's important, yeah, you can obviously do a lot of different niches and you can do a lot of different stuff. But the reason why you were able to do this and the reason why you were able to go, omni market and you could do all the different marketing and stuff is because in essence, you had a profitable product.
Yeah,
Without a profitable product, you don't have the time to go do this.
exactly.
And when you have a product that's bringing you profits, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, this was what ultimately led me also to discover Etsy and started selling on it after the pandemic, starting 2021.
So before you get to Etsy, I want to just cover your ShineOn. I want to dig into this screenshot here a bit because I think
Yeah,
it's something that maybe a lot of people, the numbers seem off, but you'll say they're correct, right? So this is looking from 2020 until basically two
right
days
now.
ago,
Yeah,
right? So 3.5, 4 years. Um, and in that time, you've sold 12,500 units, um, and a little over 11,000 orders, doing $634,000 worth of sales.
yep,
But the profits are 521,000, which means your profit margins here, I'm doing rough math, are 70% margins.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if the profits include the shipping costs. I'm not sure, but
We
yeah, my
generally don't
margins.
include shipping because we tell you guys that you should charge your customer for shipping.
Yeah, so
So if you're
I
giving away free shipping, that's on you. That's
yeah,
your choice.
exactly. So, but yeah, my margins were very high. Like it's
Yeah, I think that that is something that I feel like if you were selling a T-shirt and
oh
you saw
yeah,
$634 of revenue, I think rather than labeling that profits, you label that cost of goods would
yeah,
be 70% cost of goods
yeah,
versus 70% profits. Like
that's
that's what
exactly
that
right.
difference is, right? The difference between selling a commoditized product like a t-shirt and selling something unique like graphic jewelry is a complete switch
Yep.
of profits versus cost of goods. I mean, you're selling, say, a graphic circle for $10. What would you sell a graphic circle for in your store?
So it would go around $44 for the cheapest variant, and around $54 for the engraved variant, and then the gold option was even higher, and the engraved gold option was even higher.
Yep. So your AOV on a single unit is probably somewhere around $50,
Yeah, like
and
probably around 54.
yeah, and you're getting charged obviously somewhere between $10 to $15 probably, depending on the variant. And I guess
Yeah,
technically with gold and with engraving, you could probably get close to a $20 product, but still I think your margins are remaining pretty close to around 70%
yeah,
across
somewhere
all of
around
those variants. Um, which is great because I mean every time everyone loves when you get that engraving upsell, and it costs you $1, but you're making $3-4 on it. It's always nice to see. So yeah, I just think that that is, as someone who's sold a lot of clothing in print on demand, like this really stood out to me because I can tell you that when I sell a shirt for $30, I'm getting charged $20 to $25 for that shirt, and like this to me is just like
yeah,
ridiculous, right? So I'm sure for anyone here that has sold those types of products, you look at this and go, "Yeah, I'd much rather make 500,000 off 600,000 in sales. If I'm doing T-shirts, I'm making 100,000 off of 600,000 in sales."
yeah. You probably need to make around 2 million in sales to have these profits with t-shirts, I'd say.
Wow, yeah. See, that to me is just, I think, like that's a game changer in the way that you think about what is a winning product. And I would also say something that you said earlier is like you took a design or a design theory, whatever, a winning product theory from a product that did not have good margins, and you were able to just take it and position it on a product that did have good margins and make a lot more money.
Yeah,
And I think that that's something that people who have found ShineOn can look at the products that we have, and they can go do their ad spy research, and you can find a top selling t-shirt or a top selling tote bag, and you can take that design and put it on a dog tag or a circle or a heart, and you don't have to, you could sell a fifth of what that t-shirt sells and you'll make the same amount of money as the guy selling that t-shirt.
yeah, exactly. And you have less customer service problems to deal with.
Yeah, that's, I think that is for sure. You would definitely, and you still have the product shipping out of the US.
Yeah, that's
You have
that's huge
fast
for me.
production
That's
time.
huge for me.
You have fast shipping, a high quality product. So yeah, that's great. All right, so in this time, right, you're selling on Shopify. You start doing Google. Like you primarily, I imagine you were Facebook at that time, but then obviously like
Yeah,
iOS 13 or 14 or whatever it was at that time comes out. Facebook ultimately went through a big change around 2021. Um, so you kind of, I imagine you shift and you start thinking, I got to branch out from Facebook,
yeah.
and it ultimately leads you to find a new marketplace to sell in besides ShineOn, and that's Etsy. So, you know, back then there was no integration, there was none of that. Like, what drives you to Etsy? Because this is pre really anyone talking about Etsy with ShineOn.
Yeah. Well, first of all, my Shopify business was at this point, you could say, established. Like I was able to make some recurring income out of it and keep high profit margins. But yeah, the massive scale that I used to have with Facebook started to get more difficult to achieve. Okay, so that's when I find Etsy. And actually, I think like one of Etsy's biggest booms was actually 2020. So I do remember a bunch of people that also started selling on 2020 on Etsy, and they have told me that it was the easiest stuff. Like you could post anything on there and it will sell. But when I got in there in 2021, things were already starting to get a bit harder.
Yeah.
So I had the same idea of why I pivoted from from shoes to necklaces. I pretty much applied the same concept, and I was okay. I have been able to sell all of these necklaces through all of these different niches. So I'm just going to try and replicate this on Etsy. So you guys didn't have any integration, but guys, I want to make something here. You don't really need an integration if you're not making sales. Okay, so you first need to worry about making sales, and then you can start worrying about automating stuff. Okay, so I just went on Etsy and I just uploaded the listings with my Shopify product images, and I started doing some SEO research and just designed, like a product upload schedule, and that's how my Etsy journey started. And I got my first sale like 3 weeks in.
So I think that's an interesting point, right? Because let's say I want to automate ShineOn all the way to Etsy. I just want to do a quick calculation of my costs that I'm paying on a monthly basis. This is with zero sales, right? I'm paying what, $40 a month for Shopify. I'm paying $40 a month for like Said Commerce or another app like that, and then I'm paying 20 cents per listing on Etsy. I'm somewhere at $100 a month,
Yeah,
in it without any sales. And basically, what you're saying is, well, just take. I mean, because technically, you can go to ShineOn and you can sign up for what we call a partner account, and you don't need to have Shopify. You don't need to have any of their app. You can create and publish products into a back-end ShineOn environment.
yeah,
And you can download those images, and you can go to Etsy and you can upload those images and list your product. And you can pay 20 cents per listing and $0 otherwise. And if you're just getting started, what you're saying is, why should you go and be spending $80 a month minimum?
yeah, exactly. And
You don't have to.
yeah, the learning curve also steepens when you're trying to get all of these integrations and apps involved when you're just getting started. So it really reduces your cost, and I think it simplifies stuff a bit.
So yeah, I fully agree. I think that there is a method for people to do Etsy without, oh, keep it simple, right? Stop complicating it. Stop trying to make all the. If you're getting 100 sales a day, sure, go set it up, get automated. But until then, it's not necessary. And like, I wonder, you did a lot of sales on Etsy. When or did you automate the system to ShineOn?
It's funny because I never did.
So you never automated orders
never.
to ShineOn. You would get orders on Etsy, and you would come over to ShineOn, and you would make a manual order inside of ShineOn or inside of your Shopify store. You would make the manual order and send it to ShineOn.
Yeah, exactly. And even it was even when in Q4, when you start making a lot of more sales, I was making I don't know, 30, 40 sales a day on Etsy. It took me around maybe 40 minutes to place the orders, and I just had so much stuff going on that I didn't want to spend the time and try to integrate everything, to a third
So
party
I
or.
just want to share this. This is 4,000 Etsy orders. No, they're not all ShineOn, but
No, they are all ShineOn.
they are all ShineOn.
Yeah.
So you manually placed 4,000 orders over the course of a couple years, but you probably also saved yourself a couple $1,000 by doing that.
Yeah, exactly right.
Did you hire a VA to do it?
I mean, pretty much only when November and December starts creeping up, I try to get some help. But other than that, I just do it myself because, like I'm telling you, it's at max 40 minutes a day. If you're getting a lot of orders, if you're just getting 1 or 2 orders a day, it takes you 2 minutes to create an order.
So I think like what we've got here is this question. Is there a way to sell ShineOn products on Etsy without going through a paid service? And what you're
Yep.
saying is yes.
Absolutely.
You set up an Etsy store, and like I said, you go when you sign up for you go into your ShineOn account. Hold on, I'm gonna do this. Where's my mouse? Because I want to show people what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into it on another video, but you absolutely can, and it's much more simple than you imagine.
Well, I'm gonna share this. I want to show people exactly how to do it because a lot of times I don't think people understand how actually easy this is, right? So, you're here and I'm connected to a Shopify store. I can go here and just say add a store, and I can click partner, right? And then I'm in a partner account, and I can publish a product. I can also go to orders, and I can just hit the plus button, and I can place a manual backend order. So I can go here and hit this. And I can select the product that I've published, and I can place an order. I don't need to pay for Shopify. I don't need to pay for anything. Oh, I'm son of a gun. Sorry, everybody. I got excited. So I'm gonna go back to where I was. All right. So I'm here in a Shopify account, right? All you have to do is go down here and hit add store, right? And what it comes up with is Shopify or partner. And it says API or CSV, but you just hit connect. And it's going to bring you here. And now you've got a partner account. And you can hit add a product and you can publish. You'll say, I'll include designs on my SKUs, right? But then you can go to order and you click new order, and you can place a manual order right here without having a Shopify account, without having anywhere POD, without having any. Now those services obviously provide other stuff, but you don't need to have any of those to get started. You can literally just use this to publish a product. And now this isn't set up. It takes a minute, and you'll get my API will show up. The products take a minute to set up, but once they're there, you publish products, and then, like I said, when you get an order, you click here, new order, your product, you'd hit add a product, your products would be listed. You select the product that it is. You can change the artwork, and boom, your product goes into ShineOn. So you could do it all manually without paying for any service except the 20 cents to list a product on Etsy.
Yeah, and all you need on Etsy site are the images.
Yeah, and here you can actually do that. So like I said, when you create a product, again, it takes a minute, but so I can come in here and I can publish a product, and it'll give me all of the renders. It'll give me all of that. I don't know that this existed back when you were doing this, but you can basically build a product that exists within ShineOn, download the images, and then just go publish them on Etsy. You can do it manually and save yourself all of that money if that's what you wanted to do.
Yep.
So I think that's really cool. I think that's a really interesting model. And by the way, if you're on Empire Builders, you'll see some of these products as cheap as $4 that you could sell.
Yeah.
That's my little Empire Builders plug. Okay. So you're selling ShineOn on Etsy. You're doing. you start in 2021, and what is the ramp up of selling on? And again, were you still sticking to the graphic jewelry at this point?
Yeah, I added in a couple of other stuff, but my main driver was still my graphic jewelry. So
I have a question. Were you still selling elephants on Etsy?
yeah, I obviously branched it out of it, but
Sure,
I
sure.
was.
Okay, so um, you're on Etsy. You start in 2021. What's your trajectory look like? Because I just had up here, you're in this time you've done, 4,000 orders. You've done 207,000 in revenue. You've got an AOV of basically a little over $50. And so you're making $50 a sale, basically. Obviously this is over the course of 3 years. But what
Yeah.
does the ramp up look like for like your first year on Etsy?
Yeah, so Etsy is more of a marathon than a race, I would say. So it's not as easy to scale like with Facebook. Okay, so you just need to start one day at a time. Your first goal needs to be to make one sale, and then to make 5 sales, and then to make 10 sales. So it was kind of a slow burn. So my first months were not really big, but they started to compound over time as I started doing some horizontal scaling, which was basically finding 200 niches that were going to pay you one sale a week, something like that, just to get in your head. And that's how I started my slow climb up in Etsy. And once you start getting momentum, you start getting reviews. That's where you start making some money.
So your first year, what do you think you hit revenue wise on Etsy?
My first year, I think it was pretty low, maybe like 15K, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was still like on the fence because I was
Well, and
still
you're also doing Shopify still
yeah,
at this time, right? This is not your only thing that you have going
exactly.
on, but I'm sure for a lot of people, they'd be thrilled at 15K in their first, whatever 9-10 months that they'd be
Yeah.
thrilled to have those types of numbers. I mean, you're doing at that point. You're basically, I mean, by the end of your first year, would you say you had like a sale a day minimum coming through?
Yeah, for sure. And it's so exciting when you start getting a sale a day because it feels so consistent. And when you're in print on demand, you're not really used to consistency. So when I started getting one sale a day, that's where I started saying to myself, I need to prioritize this stuff because it's valuable to me.
And when you're on Etsy, you're posting these products. Are you paying for Etsy ads?
Okay, so I actually, ever since I started, I set my Etsy ads at $1 a day. And I remember at this time in 2021, 2022, even a lot of people were saying, like, no, I don't like Etsy ads. I don't use Etsy ads. But they were giving my new listings like a small boost. And that was absolutely crucial for me. And so I've always had a good relationship with Etsy ads. And even nowadays, like I truly believe in today's day and age, if you're starting a new store, you need to run some Etsy ads. Like it's tough to get organic traffic and just publish a few products and expect to get views without having some external traction.
Like I said, you're on Facebook, and you're also on Etsy.
Yeah.
What are you spending in ads on Facebook on a daily basis?
Yeah. So actually I found like kind of a sweet spot with Facebook, and I was just spending, around $50 a day on Facebook. And this
And
way, yeah.
at the same time, what are you spending on Etsy a day?
Oh, Etsy ads were still like, even when I started getting more sales, I did ramp up the Etsy ads a bit, but I never spent more than, and even up to this day, I've never spent more than $25 a day on Etsy ads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you, as will show, you've created a very sustainable business
Yeah.
spending less than $25 a day. Which on Facebook, I don't think that you might have done more revenue on Facebook. So okay, I guess let's take this. You do your first year at 15K on Etsy. You're probably doing more than that through your Shopify store.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
your second year on Etsy, you're more established. You go into it. You're making a sale a day. So $50, 365. I'm not that great at math, but that sounds about like 150. God, I'm so bad at math. I think that's around 15,000. If you're getting a sale a day, that's like a $15,000 a year. So
Yeah.
that's like you're going in at that run rate, basically. Obviously, things are going to improve. That's the expectation. What do you think you come to in year 2?
Yeah, I actually can take a quick look just to be more precise. Let me tell you. 1 second.
Because I think I have a screenshot of your last year.
Yeah, you have my last year.
But I could probably figure this out if I was doing better, if I was better at math, but I'm not that good at math. I'm imagining you were around 60 to 70K in your second year.
Yeah, right around that.
So you 15,000 your first year. Second year, we're getting 60K, right? So you're quadrupling basically your sale rate on Etsy, and like you're maintaining, I assume, a very high profitability because you're spending very little to acquire a customer. So I assume all of these sales are still. Are you still selling at the like $50 mark like you were on Shopify on your Shopify store?
Yeah, I mean, my Etsy prices were probably like $4 cheaper than my Shopify
Okay.
store, because you need to. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. Like the pricing strategy you can use, but my margins were so high because I was spending so little on ads, and the $25 I was spending on Etsy ads, I usually only turn it up to that point in Q4. So
Yeah.
before that, you could stay at around $10 a day. So that's,
And you make
it's
2 or
even more
3
profitable.
sales. That your one
Yeah,
sale a day pays for $10 of ads a day. So anything
yeah,
beyond that, I
exactly.
mean, you're talking about $30 of profit per sale. So if you're spending
Yeah,
$10 for ads, that's nothing.
yeah.
Compared to you
When
go
you
to
start doing
Shopify,
that, yeah,
like
when you
if you're
start
on
doing that,
Shopify,
it's
let's
crazy.
just say in order to equal the profits you're making on Etsy, on Shopify, you're having to sell 2 to 3 times the volume,
Exactly, somewhere around that.
which also means you're spending a lot more money. It's a lot more to manage. It's a whole bigger thing. Um, so then I think we come to like let's just say this is 2023, right?
Yeah,
So 2023 comes around, and like I said, we did 15,000, we did 60,000, and then we get to 2023, and you do basically $125,000
yeah,
in Etsy revenue, compounding. I assume you're adding new products on like a daily basis,
100.
um, expanding into new niches, and obviously you're probably doing like and I know I had this conversation with you. You're not just launching a product, right? You're not just like, hey, throw some images on
Yeah,
Etsy and say, hey, elephant necklace, right? You are building a listing when you launch a product, right? It is much more complex than maybe when you launch a product on Shopify.
yeah, for
What
sure.
would you what like how much time would you say you're spending on setting up each Etsy listing?
Well, the thing is, first of all, you need to figure out something out that is selling on Etsy. Like you need to start devising a strategy that you kind of already know that the way you are doing things, if you do the proper research, your design strategies are going to convert on Etsy. Okay, so and that's when you can start scaling horizontally. But first, What I first did was I started getting so good at doing product research. So what I did was, for example, just to give you an example, I found an elephant necklace that was selling well. All right. And I said to myself, how can I make this better? So until my design skills are so good that I can actually make a better necklace than that other one that is selling well on Etsy, I don't even bother publishing it. And
Yeah.
I apply this same technique to, 1,000 different niches.
So you're able to look at a winning design and make it work better for the niche.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
good design, but you're able to go, how can I make this better for the niche and put it on a necklace?
Yeah, better or at least different.
Or
Like it's
different,
one of the
sure.
two. Yeah. So you're capturing a percentage of the audience that is looking for that product that is already selling well.
And I think something that's interesting that is a different angle that you did, and I hope I'm not exposing anything too much of what you did, but you did something different than maybe a lot of our merchants are thinking. Um, and your jewelry design didn't include any words.
Yeah.
So all of your stuff was basically all art based, graphic based, not text based designs.
Exactly.
If they still, you're able to hit $125,000 in sales without saying Happy Father's Day on there or Happy Mother. You can put illustrations or whatever it is and things like that, and they would sell and people would buy. And like, you're not having to deal with coming up with phrases. You're able to deal with, you were dealing much more with the image
Yeah.
than you were with the phrase, which I think a lot of ShineOn is built around phrase building. And
Yep.
I think you kind of did something completely different where you threw away the phrase and said, hey, you know what a lot of people want is just like a cool picture.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you
And
think about it, I'm just gonna give you an example. People have been buying turtle necklaces for their entire for years. It's just a turtle. If you can find a way to create a design that is appealing enough to customers and they can also engrave it on top of it, why wouldn't they buy your turtle design over another sterling silver design, for example?
like, yeah, why wouldn't you put a dolphin on there and people would buy
Exactly.
it and they can engrave it? Like, it's an entirely different concept.
Yeah, it's a whole new
Um,
world.
but again, this is something that the graphic jewelry is such a blank canvas that you can go the text-based option. I see people do it all the time where
Yeah.
they're taking what they've learned from a message card and putting it on a dog tag for Father's Day. But you could also just put like a lion
Yeah.
on a dog tag and people can engrave on the back that says Happy Father's Day on the back and achieve basically the same result with that.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that, like, there's an argument out there then that text-based designs have a higher potential for you to find a winning product, but you can make evergreen sales with illustrations. That's what I'm
Yeah.
getting at. And it doesn't have to be necklaces. It can be, blankets. It can be pillows. It can be desk mats, yoga mats, whatever.
Well, and so that was something I wanted to broach. Like, obviously, you're selling the graphic jewelry. That's fine. And at that time, that's what's in our catalog. But if you look at our catalog now, our products have vastly grown. And I would wonder your thoughts on saying the elephant designs that you put on a graphic circle. You could probably take that and put that on a piece of canvas
Yeah,
and sell canvas.
yeah, for sure.
You could put it on a tote bag and you could sell tote bags. You could put it on a pillow and you could sell pillows. So you could create one design and publish 15 different products. They'd probably all get sales.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, if
mean,
you find a
obviously,
winning necklace, why
yeah,
wouldn't it also sell on anything else?
obviously, that I think that the big barrier of entry, if I would say, is that you need to be you need to be very skilled at designing. So that's
Sure.
you need to spend a lot of time in that area.
But we have a lot of merchants that come from a design background, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like we there, there's an aspect of us having to tell them, you're worrying too much about the design. You
Yeah.
need to focus on just the words, right? And if you put words on it, you do have to focus more.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
there's a world in which they don't need to put you. You could post a picture of, an elephant walking, and then a baby elephant walking behind it, holding its tail with its trunk, and you could sell that for Mother's Day. It doesn't need to say Happy Mother's Day on it. It's
Exactly.
canvas, and people will buy that year round and hang it up in their house. And like you can put it on a necklace, you can put it on a pillow, you can put it on a tote bag, you can put it on, any type of wall art. You can put it on a clock. You can put it on whatever else it is that we have in our catalog, right? The pencil pouches, and you can go crazy, and you can take a single design and create 15, 20 products, and to the right person, if that design appeals to them, they will come and buy it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of our products in the catalog now that the training behind message cards, while great, and yes, we have a lot of people who have made a lot of money selling message cards with text. This is not saying that that is not a good idea, but if you don't feel like that's your thing,
Exactly.
and you're not resonating with that, and you are a designer, you could, like, we have tons of products in our catalog. I personally have a store where I do 7 figures a year, and not a single thing has a word on it, right? It's all text and design based. It's a clothing brand. And you can create these things if you have a good design sense, if you know what people like, if you know what's cool, if you know what's trending, if you know it. Now, obviously, I'm not putting elephants on my stuff because that doesn't make sense for my niche.
Yeah.
Right. But it all just depends on what niche you decide you want to be in to say what type of designs you need to put on it. Is there a way that I could look at my product and maybe put an elephant on it? Sure, but it doesn't match.
Yeah.
My niche is a golf company, right? Like, you don't put elephants on golf stuff.
Exactly.
So that's not what I'm doing. But I think that there's a lot of this that can be done with the other products that we have, where you can look at them, and like I said, there's a lot of people with a lot of design skills that taking and learning how to do the phrase flipping and the testing and all of that can be difficult, and it can be daunting. And there's a lot of tools out there nowadays that can help you from a design perspective as well. There, I come up with a lot of, like, I do a lot of pattern work, and I actually utilize AI to help me with patterns, because I am, way back when, 12, 13 years ago, I would have considered myself a graphic designer, but I'll tell you, I'm not one anymore, and nor do I have the time to be one, because I've got this full-time job at ShineOn. So I can't just spend hours doing design work. Also, my wife and daughter would murder me if that's what I spend all my time doing. I spend much more time. I rather enjoy time with my family.
Yeah.
So I've actually turned to using AI to do a lot of my design work, and I can upload an image of a cool shirt that I see. It's not a golf shirt or anything like that, but it's like I see this cool, like, pattern. I've seen I've done a wallpaper. I found a wall. I can upload it into AI, and AI will actually recreate a different version, but something along the same lines of that, in the same theme as that pattern. And then I'm able to take that pattern and apply it into my brand.
Sure. That's why you don't need to be a graphic designer in today's day and age. You don't need to be by profession a graphic designer to get good at this stuff.
Yeah. I think that's, it takes time, and I'll be honest, AI is not perfect, but I'll say I've had a lot of issues with AI and having any sort of words on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you stumbled into in a way is something that I see there's a huge possibility for people that want to expand beyond the phrase flipping region. And like I said, you could probably take what you found on Etsy that was a winning product, and I imagine you might have even done this, and take it to Shopify and tested it on Facebook. Like,
Yeah.
did you almost like use Etsy as a learning tool?
Yeah, even to this day, I take my stuff from Etsy that works, and I test it on Facebook and vice versa. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's very important to if you can start to be omni-channel in some way or form, that will always benefit your business.
Yeah. I think that it's Etsy is a really good testing ground. Now, it's not
Yeah.
perfect. Obviously, you can test stuff a lot faster on Facebook, and there's things like that. But there's monetary investment, and there's risk, and there's all of that associated with it. But I think ultimately, if you're not sure what you want to do, I think Etsy is a great proving ground to help you to learn. I think especially for people that don't quite understand niches, right? If you're not really sure about niches, Etsy is good because it trains you on more than just creating the product. On Facebook and with Shopify, you're creating a product and you're running an ad. But on Etsy, you're creating a listing. And there's way more
Yep.
thought that goes into it because you have to create the design, you have to publish the product, you then have to give it a creative title that includes all the right keywords. You have to come up with all the keywords. You have to come up with all the tags. You have to write a description that's packed with all the keywords. And you can go get like eRank, and it's going to tell you, hey, this is your main
Yeah.
keyword. It's not in your title. And like, hey, this is not in your description, and it's not used as a tag. If it's your number one keyword, it should be in everything, right? And like, it trains you on how to create a product that is within a niche because it all has to be interconnected. I think once you learn how to do that, it can teach you how to then create products for Facebook because you're going to be able to look at it and go, yeah, this isn't in the same niche, right? Like
Yeah.
it gives you an understanding of niches, at least I think, because if the SEO on Etsy doesn't work, it's probably not going to work on Facebook. But if it all works on Etsy, it'll probably go to Facebook and work.
Yeah.
Or at least it's worth
I've
testing.
transitioned some of my Etsy listings to Shopify, and since I've done so much research on Etsy on how to do the SEO, I found out that I get a couple of sales just through organic traffic on Shopify because of
Yeah.
doing that SEO research.
Nice. Awesome. I mean, I think this story, like I said, you have done now well over 7 figures, multiple 7 figures in print on demand over the last 7 years. You have done huge numbers with ShineOn on both Shopify and on Etsy. And I really think you've gone into a unique area that I think a lot of people ignore because when you look at ShineOn, you really get drawn to a very specific thing, and that's that message card and that text space. And I think it's a very interesting thing that a lot of our merchants probably resonate with, and they don't hear us talking about it much, but you can utilize, artwork. I've even seen people use things from like video games, sports, right? I'll tell you one of the
Obviously, no copyrighted stuff, right?
sure. No, obviously not copyrighted, right? But like I've seen a top selling design. I hope it's not yours, and I don't remember who it was. It was at least 3 years ago because I was in the U.S. Right.
Okay.
So hopefully I don't think I'm giving one, but it was just the circle jewelry, and they just put a softball on it, and then they put a soccer ball on it, and then they put a basketball on it, and then they put a baseball on it, and then you could engrave the back. So people could put a softball for a girl that loves softball and put her name and number on the back, right? Like there are tons of ways to utilize this the products that we have that are well beyond. And to be honest, probably the number one best-selling graphic item that's ever existed, and we see this year in and year out for Father's Day, is just a sonogram picture of a pregnancy. No words, just that. Like I think that it's something that a lot of our merchants can resonate with and think about how they can apply that to a niche and how they can do that, and they can be maybe a bit more creative if they're on the creative side. So I think the story resonates with a lot of people, and I think it also proves that if that's the direction you want to go, you did $125,000 in a year doing that with high margins. You were able to make a living selling real graphic based jewelry. So can everybody else if that's what they want to do. So I think that's a huge part of the story I wanted to make sure people understand. Is like, you don't always, just because you see message cards and you see text, that's not the only thing you can do. There's plenty of other stuff that you don't have to put a message card on a pillow. You can put a picture of a bird on a pillow and people would buy it. And I think that's an important lesson. Maybe, I don't know if lesson is the right word, but important thing for people to take away.
Yeah, I agree.
And Deborah over here, my favorite. Tell people all the time not to ignore the graphic jewelry. People pass over. I've got some news. I'm probably not supposed to share this, right? I do this quite a bit. Well, actually, you know who does this? Michael does this all the time. So if anyone's going to get mad at me, I'll tell them to refer back to every time Michael does one of these and he tells everybody a secret.
Spills the beans.
But I'm pretty sure the prices on our graphic jewelry are going down. So if you're interested, I would look at that graphic jewelry and wait for going into Q4. I do believe we're going to be having something, a bit of something that everybody can look forward to, because I think that it really helps to make that product a bit more appealing with a lower price. So I think that's something we've been working really hard on. And I also believe we're launching a new version of our dog tag. Probably, again, not supposed to say that, but I have. Too late. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Fire me. All right. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up. We're at about an hour and a half. Rodrigo. Well, first of all, I want to say one thing for people that don't know. Rodrigo, you've been selling with ShineOn for like over 4 years. You've been selling print on demand over 7. And recently I actually had the pleasure of hiring you to come on board with ShineOn and to start working with ShineOn. And I'm excited to say that soon we're going to have some training coming out from you. And I'm really excited for that. And I think everybody, obviously you're helping me a lot on the back end with other marketing based things. Yeah. But as long as I have you, I'm going to utilize all of that knowledge in your brain and get you to spit it out into some sort of course that we can give to our sellers, so that they can go out and learn from what you've done. Because I think what you've done is something that a lot of merchants can resonate with. And I think that training is going to be really cool. So first of all, welcome to the ShineOn family. Here's your introduction. You get ShineOn, you get coffee with ShineOn. You probably don't even have any ShineOn swag yet, do you?
No, I don't. I need some.
Brooke,
need to send some my way.
Hook him up, message him on Slack, and give him a coupon.
I'm going to be on the lookout.
Give him some let him get some ShineOn swag. Hook him up. He should have been wearing a ShineOn shirt, and so
I want my sword.
But hey, thanks for coming on, and thanks for sharing your story. I think a lot of people are going to resonate with this, and a lot of people are going to get a lot out of it. And I think this is a great way of introducing you to the ShineOn family who might not be aware of who you are, the ShineOn community. And I think they'll all be eagerly awaiting to see some of the training that you put forward here in the future, because I think it's going to be super, super helpful. And I also know you're working on some other fun things in the back end for us that I think other merchants are going to be very excited about. So again, Rodrigo, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being here and being willing to share your story openly and give back to the community. And yeah, other than that, enjoy your Friday. I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. So yay, I will see you in 2 weeks. But everybody else, thanks for joining us on Coffee with ShineOn. And I don't know who you'll see next week. I'm already on vacation in my brain, so I don't know. Maybe it's Andy, maybe it's Michael, maybe it's Tammy. Someone will be on Coffee with ShineOn next week, but it will not be me. All right. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week.